5 or 6 years ago. That didn't turn out to be very accurate.
Sorry, when we say a party is dead, we
write off a great national party.
We only mean it's dead for a while. I mean, No, I think we do.
Fair enough.
I thought if you were dead, you were dead.
But do you really think...
No, not in politics, no. I mean, the Tories were dead after 97. What that means is you expect them to be out for a decade or 12
But what
years.
I'm thinking is that by the time there's the next election, my dream is that there is a hung parliament, that there is some kind of cataclysmic process where that we do arrive at politics by consensus, and the fallout creates a different kind of political system and different kind of political parties.
I don't know about politics by consensus, but a hung parliament would be interesting.
Well, I think there's a very good chance of a hung parliament. Personally.
Well, they would get Vince Cable as Chancellor.
You might get Vince Cable.
Well, tomorrow's poll in the Telegraph, which is a big poll, gives the Tories an 18-point lead. That doesn't look like a hung parliament.
Yes, but if you go back to when you and I were much younger and you lived through those days when there were big swings and the rest of it, actually it always swings back a bit towards the government as you come to
into 97.
Well,
that's the
you're right
question.
in some ways. I mean, this feels like 96, doesn't it? In some ways,
in terms of a government disintegrating,
yes.
Whether new Labour's dead, whether new Tories are dead, or whether we're going to get the hung parliament Janet wants, whatever happens to the political system, isn't it right to say we are entering a new age of austerity?
We certainly are, and I mean, there's another possibility apart from a hung parliament, which is that at some point we can't borrow the money that we need to borrow, and that some outside agency, whether it's the IMF or whether it's the sort of consortium of lenders to the government, says you need to have an emergency package. I mean, it's quite hard. Obviously, the Chancellor doesn't want to tell us how bad things are. The Tories don't particularly want to tell us how bad things would be if they were elected. And you therefore begin to look as to whether politicians are going to be forced to do what is necessary by the intervention of an outside agency.
But in a sense, that's why you get disillusioned with politics, because we all know, looking at the amount of money we have to borrow, that there will have to be not just what Labour and Tory are saying is slow rates of increase in public spending. There will have to be some real cuts.
Yeah, well,
but no one will tell us the truth.
I've been hit on many fronts by the budget. I'm a pensioner. And I had savings, and this is from a government that told me a year ago, we're going to look after pensioners and get savings.
I'm not sure looking after you, Janet, is the major aim of this government, I've got to tell you.
One of the reasons
She's a citizen, she deserves to be looked after.
Exactly, and also one of the reasons I'd like Vince Cable to be Chancellor of the Exchequer is we'd have an economist running the economy. Wow. I mean, when I listened to George Osborne on the radio this morning, he won't say what his policies are, because the truth is that if the Tories get in, they are going to be the party of mass unemployment, because the only way for them to make spending cuts is to lay off all these people that are now feather-bedded in the public sector.
Whoever is Chancellor next year, they're going to have massive public sector cuts. I mean, that's clear. And so it does matter in a way who's elected, because the political decision will be where the cuts fall. And I must say, you've reminded us you're a pensioner. Maybe Labour's slogan will be, under Labour, all pensioners will look as good as Janet Street Porter.
Yeah, but they didn't in the budget.
Ooh,
they didn't in the budget.
Nice to guess,
Thank you, Diana.
Do you owe money or something?
Solidarity.
She's so rude to our guests.
No, it's a rare moment of solidarity which we're going to savour. But in the budget, they did not say. Gordon Brown had an opportunity, Alistair Darling had an opportunity to abolish compulsory retirement. And he didn't. Instead, what did they do? Women now, we've had our pensionable age raised to 65. Thanks a million.
All right. Enough of the pension party for the moment. Gordon Brown, many people gave him credit for economic competence when he was Chancellor. Some didn't, but many did. He can't claim that anymore, can he?
Absolutely not. That was Cameron's point. And why is that? It is because, of course, during all the years of plenty, he went on borrowing. I mean, the position on borrowing would not be nearly as bad as it is now if during the years of plenty he'd done what was supposedly his policy, which was to put by money for a rainy day, to pay off
his
debt.
reputation for competence has been very, very damaged. But I still say, if you look at Alistair Darling, you look at George Osborne, who would you rather have running the economy?
Certainly not.
Alistair
Darling. Vince Cable.
That's it. There's a good chance we don't want either of them, isn't there?
Well, that's not the choice that's going to be offered.
It might be the choice if we get Janet's hung parliament, because then we get into a totally new politics, which I've got to tell you, a lot of people out there, including me, would quite like. They quite like to. We've had enough, I suspect.
I'm not quite
this old
clear how a hung
system.
parliament creates this new politics.
Yeah.
Well, normally what a hung parliament does is
So a
to
lot of the
reinforce the
old-
status
Oh,
quo.
What happened is a lot of the old
one
politicians-
condition that the Liberals will place on anybody is electoral reform, and when you get electoral reform, then you've got a whole
Tories
new
aren't.
Politics.
Tories aren't.
The
Has-
Tories will.
has
The Tories will
what's
never
happened-
give electoral reform.
Has what's
They'll never
happened,
give
Greg,
electoral reform.
this week, in the past 10 days, has it defined the political parameters for the next election?
Actually, I don't think so. I think governments lose